it to you. He gon' give it to you. X gon' give it to you. He gon' give
X gonna give it to you, huh? All right, dude, I'm gonna play a tune here. You ready?
All right, go ahead.
Dave Workman calling in at 3 minutes after.
All right.
Couldn't fit at school. Gowns about the 7th grade. I played them all the fool. Yeah, I couldn't find shoes my size. Had to walk 10 miles. There's blisters on the backs of my soles and an illegal smile. We're burning down Las Vegas town. Had to sleep by noon. Drink my money on a red roulette. That's a ride you can't refuse. 5 hours down with a sunrise frown. Lightning in your shoes. It's 1 foot in the ether with the LA County Blues. Accessory, 30 days in jail. One head out in a Louisville night without a chance at bail. But I'll be home by Derby town, so please sing me a seat. Mint tulips on the outfield grass. The old South tastes so sweet. We're burning down Las Vegas town. To sleep by noon. Drink my money on a red roulette. That's a ride you can't refuse. 5 hours down with a sunrise cloud. Lightning in your shoes. It's 1 foot in the ether with the LA. You can call me Mr. Raoul Duke. I know what you mean. Blinded by a quart of rum and a dose of mescaline.
Dose of mescaline. That's going back.
Slow me down, kinda like the speed. Will the failure of our generation for a couple bags of weed. We're burning down Las Vegas.
Have we got Dave on?
Yep.
Roger that.
Money on a red roulette. That's a ride you can't refuse. 5 hours down with a sunrise crown. Lightning in your shoes. It's 1 foot in the ether with the LA County Blues. Yeah, it's 1 foot in the ether with the LA County Blues.
Yeah, Craig, I hear you, dude. I hear you, brother. That was L.A. County Blues by the Band of Heathens. How we doing on time, Gregory?
We're about 20 out from open. And 5.
4, 3, 2, 1.
You can hear that? Okay, good.
This is Armed American Radio's Daily Defense.
Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. Because they don't want me to, that's why I do it.
Presented by X Insurance. X Insurance. From the gunbroker.com studios on the Crossbreed Holsters Platinum microphone.
They're never going to stop us here.
It's 2021, and we're in a new decade. Here is your host, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting the enemies of freedom, Mark Walters.
Wow, the loudest voice. My family would agree with that. They've been known to tell me that I'm loud before. I am Mark Walters. Welcome inside Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, gunbroker.com studios here on this Crossbreed Holsters Platinum microphone. Every bit of this being presented to you today by a fantastic company by the name of X Insurance. Have you got your X Insurance plan yet? Get real, get X. They've got you covered. In fact, I noticed something the other day. If you have any of the member plans, if you try to cancel, there's no you don't even have a plan. So you there's nothing to cancel because you don't have a plan. X has a plan written for you. We'll explain it later. I was on the Mark Cox show. 2A Tuesday, I do a hit with Mark Cox just about every week, at least every couple weeks in Missouri, 97.1. And it is just a tremendous time. This morning, we were talking about the Missouri Firearm Coalition efforts being a model for the rest of the country. I'm going to talk about that today with Dave Workman, and he doesn't even know that yet, but I can promise you we're going to have a great conversation. But they put out my opinion today. They've got a piece out there today of my interview on 97.1 FM Talk, radio.com/971talk, and it's in the news and politics segment. It was a really fun segment with Mark this morning. You'll enjoy it. I'm not going to play it for you, but you can go check it out. Just Google Missouri Firearm Coalition, DuckDuckGo. Forget Google or whatever source you use, start page, whatever it is. Missouri Firearm Coalition efforts should be model for the rest of the country. Let's talk a little bit about what I'm talking about with Dave Workman, veteran journalist and good friend and my mom's favorite guest on the show. Dave, how the heck are you, brother?
Well, I'm doing okay. But it's only Tuesday, you know.
It is early. I wanted to get you in here early this week because you and I have some work to do after hours tomorrow. We'll just tease that. We won't say any more. Suffice to say, you and I will be in a large meeting tomorrow. And this type, what we're talking about here that I spoke about with Mark Cox today, is going to be on the docket of that meeting. And it's important, and it's something that I want everybody to hear about because it is gathering steam in Missouri. Missouri Firearms Coalition at MissouriFirearmsCoalition.org, listeners and viewers, has a piece titled up from Wednesday, January 27th. It's what Mark Cox and I talked about today and what I'm referring to now. Second Amendment Preservation Act spreading. Dave, take a listen to this. Joe Biden will be the most anti-gun president that America's ever seen. Honestly, that has less to do with Joe Biden and more to do with the people that surround him. True statement. Snarling, snapping, America-hating leftists like Vice President Kamala Harris, Beto O'Rourke, Michael Bloomberg, Senator Mark Kelly, and others hate gun owners. And they want to punish us for daring to stand up for our fight for freedom and fight for freedom. They don't want to tweak our gun rights. They want to obliterate them because our Second Amendment freedoms are the only thing standing between us and runaway government tyranny. But while we do everything in our power to hold the line against federal gun control, it's crucial that we have a plan B in case Biden is successful. That's why the Missouri Firearms Coalition is working to advance the Second Amendment Preservation Act, SAPA, which would nullify federal gun control laws here in Missouri. Take a listen. The idea that states are separate legal entities that have the right to tell the federal government to go pound sand has been upheld by SCOTUS repeatedly by conservative and liberal justices alike going back hundreds of years. And then they have a link listing those cases. And then what they talk about here is If passed, SAPA would not only give Missouri peace officers the option to ignore federal gun control laws, it would require that they do so. And any government official who violates SAPA legislation would be subject to civil lawsuits. Dave, this is fascinating stuff. And this is similar to Second Amendment sanctuary counties and cities and towns that we saw in Virginia and other places. But this is that on steroids. Doesn't it sound like that?
Well, it is actually reminiscent of what the illegal alien sanctuary people have done. Seattle or San Francisco. I mean, pick a town.
Right.
Pick a city where they tell local law enforcement that you are not supposed to cooperate with immigration and customs people. It sounds very much the same way. So it would be really the same principle. Now, you watch the hypocrites on the left come out from under every rock in your driveway and go absolutely berserko over something like this. That's almost guaranteed. In fact, I think you and I should hold our breath and just wait. It's going to happen. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. And honestly, it may or may not be more symbolism than substance, but it does say something that telegraphs a message to everybody else in the country.
What it kind of reminds me of, and it briefly popped up, it reared its head on my show over the last couple of days, and that is Kennesaw, Georgia. If you remember Kennesaw, Georgia, we talked about
you
here.
bet.
Right? And it's 11 miles up the road from me, and I'm holding a Kennesaw mug that's right now that says Kennesaw State University Dad, because my daughter's going to be going to Kennesaw State. And Dave, I know you remember this when it happened, like I do. But you go back to 1987 when Morton Grove, Illinois, passed its gun grabber bill and said no guns allowed in town. And Kennesaw rebutted it here in Georgia and said, no. Every house has to have a gun in it. Well, that worked really well for Kennesaw because Kennesaw was having a crime problem coming up, criminals out of Atlanta. It's close to Atlanta, Marietta, down there on the northern fringes of northern Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And that, even though, like you just said, this is the operative words, it was more symbolism over substance because it really had no legal teeth. But you know what it did? It told criminals, I better go somewhere else. And crime has remained 87% lower for all these years than it was when that bill or that ordinance, that county ordinance, was passed. So that substance or symbolism really does contain substance when the residents of these counties, like in Virginia, say, as I told Mark Cox today, if you listen to the interview, not up in here. Not today. Get off my lawn. But it works. It truly works. It puts the government on notice. Hey. Maybe we don't want to do that, right?
Well, I'm not too sure if this particular government, the one we have in D.C. right now, is going to really care because they are incredibly arrogant about what they're doing. They're not even making a secret of trying to push the country over the left edge of the cardboard box. They're doing it right in front of everybody, and they've got support from CNN and all the other lapdog media. I think I just coined a phrase.
You did.
That supports this far left agenda. Biden made every effort to remind people during the campaign that, hey, I've shepherded the Brady bill. I did this for gun control. I fought the NRA 3 times and won. All of that stuff. And Kamala Harris, whose presidential aspirations kind of went away pretty fast, but now she's the vice president, so all Joe has to do is maybe trip. But, quite frankly, this is no laughing matter, and it should be no laughing matter to gun owners and people who believe in their rights anywhere in the United States, because they really are coming after your Second Amendment rights. And when they don't make a secret of it, when they do this openly, when they get support from people in the media, there's no indication that anybody's going to stand up and say, "Hey, wait a minute, you can't do this," because they're just daring you to try. At which point they'll have you arrested for insurrection or creating a public disturbance or whatever
30.
they can get you on, and the next thing you know, you're nothing but a white supremacist loon, and that's the game these people are playing, and that's how they operate.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, we're the perfect place to stop. When we come back, what Dave just said fits entirely into what we're talking about relative, because they are doing that. And I'm going to reference a Politico piece that creates that narrative. That's why this is so dangerous. That wait till you see this from Politico. I'll cover it. I wasn't intending to, but see, this is what I love about having Mr. Workman on the program. He sends you down these roads. He makes you think. And I'm going to refer back to that Politico. I'll pull it up during the break. But suffice to say, that Second Amendment Preservation Act, similar legislation is being introduced in Iowa, Wyoming, Minnesota, and right here in Georgia as well. Think Second Amendment sanctuary cities on steroids. Back right after this with Dave.
We're getting close.
Roger that. And I just found that piece. Whew.
All right, here we go.
30?
And 30.
This upcoming segment of Armed American Radio is being sponsored by Gunbroker.com, the world's largest online marketplace to buy and sell firearms, ammo, and related accessories. That's Gunbroker.com. Welcome back to the show. Gunbroker.com is sponsoring this segment. This is the Gunbroker.com studios. 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday on the Crossbreed Holsters microphone, and every bit of it, 6 days a week, including the Monster Cast, is presented to you by X Insurance, a real insurance company with insurance that you need if you carry a firearm. Even think about it, your businesses, your home, your lifestyle. X has all of it covered. X is dominating the firearms industry now with good reason. Maybe you should consider thinking about why they are and why you need to join them and get off the gimmicky stuff that you think you have that you don't really have. Xinsurance.com. Check it out. Politico. Oh, look, Dave, welcome back. Welcome back to you. Dave, what you said, I'm talking with Dave Workman from the CCR-KBA offices, Second Amendment Foundation offices. This guy's got Alan Gottlieb's ear every day. I love that. Great guy to know. Dave, check this piece out from Politico. When I read this is the kind of stuff makes your skin crawl, because this is just creation of narrative 101. I mean, they could teach this in a class. What Ulysses Grant can teach Joe Biden about putting down violent insurrections. Now, right there, I'm thinking, obviously, Politico's talking about a handful of goofballs and boneheads that stormed the Capitol. And, of course, Grant is the Civil War. Is Politico making a comparison between the Civil War and nearly 700,000 dead Americans and the Capitol? You know, this is what they do. This is how they gin this up. Take a listen. The deadly siege of the Capitol in Washington, which sought to overturn a legitimate election by targeting lawmakers with assassination, was not the first attempted insurrection in American history. During Reconstruction, and now it goes on to Reconstruction, and it talks about violence, real violence that occurred during Reconstruction with Democrats creating the KKK, roving bands of people murdering black Americans. Somehow, Dave, there's a correlation between Trump supporters in Washington and this. It's just astonishing to me, my friend, and you're a journalist. What does this tell you?
Well, it tells me that somebody's a pretty creative writer.
Maybe even a better creative thinker, huh? To come up with this stuff.
What can I say? You know, it's the world is full of opinions and full of people with opinions, and this is certainly an intro. I just started giving this a read while we were on the break. You know, in the aftermath of January 6th, there have been all kinds of allegations. In fact, I read one the other day that just was astonishing to me. Somebody was trying to blame the National Rifle Association for what happened in the Capitol on January 6th. I mean, that's beyond absurd. That is just mind-numbingly stupid.
Yeah.
But it's an effort. And your listeners really need to be in tune with it. It's an effort to demonize one side of the argument and demonize fully 1/3 of the population of the United States. More than 100 million people, according to some estimates, are gun owners in this country. And they're being smeared with a really broad brush every time you read stuff that tries to accuse the right or the radical right or the extremist right, pick an adjective and a verb, for all the ills that are going on, and yet they pay absolutely no attention at all to the history that we've seen. And you were right. You mentioned this. The Democrats of the South in Reconstruction America. They're the ones who got on the horses and put on their white sheets and ran around scaring people. It wasn't the Republicans. Abe Lincoln was a Republican, boys and girls. He wasn't a Democrat. And he led the country through its most devastating period, I think, because we weren't at war with somebody else. We were killing each other. I mean, brother against brother was not uncommon. And I think that part of history is deliberately overlooked by people who simply want to demonize those of us, I guess, me included, I suppose, because people say I'm a conservative, well, I'm a gun owner. But those of us who own firearms and who may vote conservatively, they're trying to demonize us, turn us into second-class citizens who don't really have a right to speak our minds, don't have a right to be represented fairly on Capitol Hill. And that's kind of what is at work here. And when you dig right down into the bone of this thing, guns are right there in the middle of it because they want to disarm the people who can stand up and say, no, you're not going to do that.
You know, I want to point out something in this Politico piece. I've been featured in a Politico piece before, and I have to tell you, they were very fair. It was going a while back, but I thought it was kind of cool because on the cover of Politico, there was a picture of Barack Obama and a story about Obama. Then over here was a story of Hillary Clinton, and then over here was my mug and a story about gun owners. And I thought that was pretty cool, and they were very fair about it. I want to point this out about Politico. While they are doing exactly what you just said and demonizing a group of Americans, at least they pointed this out. I caught this morning. However, the echoes of that Reconstruction-era violence, led by both white marauders, and then in parentheses, cloaked as the Ku Klux Klan and other terrorist groups, and white supremacist Democratic officials bent on reclaiming power from Republicans. Okay, so at least they acknowledged that Democrat aspect that we talk about here all the time that the rest of the mainstream press does not. They forget to tell you that it was the Democrats were the Confederacy was Democrats. It was Democrats that were slave owners, and it was so at least they went there. So I got to give them a little bit of mad props there for doing that. But you're right, the demonization in this is, I mean, you know, to use the phrase on social media, SMH. You know, I'm shaking my head. You could put another letter in there too. It's crazy what I'm seeing.
Well, crazy, I think, is probably the polite way to put it.
Yes.
We all saw what your friend and mine, Alan Gottlieb, said the other day about Sheila Jackson Lee's H.R. 127, which wants to put the screws to gun owners in this country from 7 different angles. This legislation, he called it insanity on steroids.
I'm looking right at your piece in Liberty Park Press about it. It was next on my list. I'm looking right at it. So, yes, let's go there. Great segue.
Well, you know, we can do that in the next. I think we're coming up to a hard break here in about a minute and a half. But, you know, honestly, while we're in the break, boys and girls, and ladies and gentlemen, jump on your computer, Google up HR 127, and just read that stinker.
Oh, it's really something else. Well, I can't wait to get your opinion on this. I want to hear you opine.
I think you just got my opinion.
Yeah, but that's the kind. We are on a break right now. And I got to tell you, that's what I love about Dave. Dave's a regular contributor to the show. He can sense and feel those breaks. He knew we were coming up on that hard break. I love that. Just the professional in him. We're going to cover his piece about Sheila Jackson Lee and this. Jackson Lee's H.R. 127, Insanity on Steroids, says CCR-KBA. Tell you a little bit about it. I want you to think about that Second Amendment, that SAPA bill, when you hear this, back after this. All right, boys and girls. Hold on 1 second for me. You know, it just dawned on me I'm wearing the same sweatshirt I was wearing yesterday. Greg, you with me?
Yeah.
Boys and girls, so here's what I got today. I was able to pick up a very hard find, bourbon-wise. I was able to pick up a bottle of Weller's, which I've been able to get since about Thanksgiving. But I picked a bottle of Weller's up today, and at the same time I picked up the Weller's, I picked up a bottle of Blanton's. It was expensive. It was $135, but I wanted to put it in the collection. You ever had Blanton's, Greg?
I'm sorry, say again?
Blanton's. Have you ever had Blanton's bourbon? Single barrel?
Have not.
Ooh, it's quite yummy. And it's tough. It's tough to get your hands on. Very limited dealers can get it, and I was able to get my hands on one today.
Well, all right.
So, all right. So I'm looking at I'm going to sample a little bit of that this afternoon. And construction is now reslated to begin on the
Is it still
AAR
happening
range.
tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning between 8 and noon.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. And then at 6 o'clock, I've got a board meeting that'll probably go until midnight.
Good times.
Good times. Very serious conversation.
Gotta love
4:30
meetings
tomorrow.
that go for 6 hours.
Yeah, particularly when they're this topic. This one's an important one.
Sure.
This is the Second Amendment Foundation and
Sure.
CCR-KBA joint board meeting being called early rather than waiting till September, and you can imagine why.
Well, yeah. Today's
Well,
topic.
yeah. Hey, you want to bring us back? How about you bring us back in with the purge instead of one of the other breaks? I'll cut that out. How about that?
All right, I'll crossfade.
Come in at just kick it in at 30. I'll let you run with it. Back to the break screen.
All right.
Crossfade means he's going to fade it in. Crossways.
Because we don't want to skip all the announcer stuff.
No. We want to crossfade. Hey, Jeremy,
Exactly.
smart move, brother. So did Di, so did I. And so did lots of others.
All right, we're close. All right. 30.
Do it.
Back to Armed American Radio's Daily Defense with Mark Walters.
Welcome back inside Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. That's a pretty freaky sound, isn't it? That's the purge. Back there in the background. That's called a crossfade. Don't you love that? Thank you, Greg, for that. We're at Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, the gunbroker.com studios. The Crossbreed Holsters microphone. All of this brought to you by X Insurance. I'm seeing some commentary from some of those who are watching the program who didn't really have to cancel what they had previously because they didn't really have it. It's not their insurance. And picked up X Insurance. X Insurance is the real deal, and thank you for doing that. If you are interested, if you have questions, reach out to me, mark@armedamericanradio.org. Many of you have. I will call you. If you have legitimate questions, I have picked up the phone, and I will call you and answer those questions. Xinsurance.com, AM Best Rated. You got the best for everything in your life. Why would you let your freedom wilt to some gimmicky member plan that doesn't even have your name on it? Seriously, think about that. Your lien holders would never allow that on your cars, your homes, your toys, your life insurance, your health insurance would never allow any of that, what you think you have. Why would you do it? X Insurance solves that problem. Xinsurance.com. Dave, I got to be honest with you, that I went and looked over some of that Jackson Lee deal again. Ooh. I mean, it's like Spicoli in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Like, oh, wow. I mean, it's so stupid that it invokes that level of, I mean, the drop in your IQ necessary is incredible. Tell us what Sheila Jackson Lee has done and what she expects in 127. I've read the whole thing. It's insanity.
Well, it is insanity, but I think a better word should be applied here. It's dangerous.
Good point.
And one of the reasons for it is if you read down into, I think it's Section B, in order to purchase a firearm in this country, Ms. Lee's legislation would require that we get a license ahead of time and then submit to a psychological evaluation to determine whether we are psychologically fit to exercise the right to keep and bear arms. Now, anywhere that comes right out of the George Orwell 1984 type thinking, and it is dangerous. I noticed that so far she doesn't have a co-sponsor for this legislation, and that's probably a good thing. It suggests to me that people on Capitol Hill have looked at this and said, "What are you, crazy?"
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, but it is a horrible piece of legislation that also includes registration of all your firearms. That is, it goes back. I mean, you have to register every firearm that you own, even if you've owned it for 20 years. This is not something that applies to any new guns you might buy. It's retroactive, and you've got to have insurance. And by golly, there's a price tag on that insurance in the legislation. $800 a year.
Government insurance. Let's make this clear. This is the ultimate form of government stepping on you. And I want to interject here because, again, on the Mark Cox Show today, I had a lot of fun on that interview today. Please go back. It's on my Twitter feed. You can go back and see it and listen to it. But this is from Dick Durbin, the rabidly anti-gun Illinoisan. And here's what he has, because he is now chairing the Senate Judiciary Committee. These bills get referred to his committee. Take a listen to this. This is what he said in a tweet. Today I had the chance to speak with a group of gun violence prevention advocates from across the country. I told them that reducing gun violence will be a top priority of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I will never stop fighting for gun safety. Now, let me back up. He had a chance to speak with a group of gun violence prevention advocates. That would be me. That would be Dave. Oh, but wait, alas, it's not gun violence prevention. These people have hijacked the language. It's gun control activists. Remember, they call themselves gun violence prevention advocates. They're not. National Rifle Association trainers and responsible gun owners. We are actually gun safety advocates, not them. So they changed and hijacked the language. Then he says, I told them that reducing gun violence, that means instituting gun control, will be a top priority of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I will never stop fighting for gun safety. That means gun control. So when you've got statements like that coming from the Senate Judiciary Chairman, Dave, and you've got this legislation from Jackson Lee, you know he's going to look at every bit of this stuff. He's going to lay eyes on everything, every one of these. What did Gottlieb call them? He called this a constitutionally challenged monstrosity. But Durbin's going to look at it and make decisions as to whether these things advance, brother. Scary?
Yeah, it is scary. It should be frightening to anybody who has gray matter functioning between their ears. Now, I want to remind people of something. You and I talked about this at length last year, leading up to November 3rd. There are some gun owners in this country who voted for Joe Biden because they voted against Donald Trump by voting for Joe Jorgensen. Now, I don't know Ms. Jorgensen. I'm sure she's a fine person, and she certainly deserved to run for president, as does any American citizen. And she had some interesting ideas that appealed to a lot of people. But if you look at the vote tallies in the critical states, had her votes gone to Trump, Joe Biden would not be in the White House right now. And that's the sad truth of the matter. Until we can reshape Capitol Hill to a more conservative, or at least more moderate, then and only then, I think, should people really entertain the idea of trying to bring in a third party, and I think they'll be successful. I think maybe it's time for a good, strong third party to shake them up on Capitol Hill, because a lot of those guys on both sides of the aisle, they've been there for way too long,
way too comfortable.
And it's just something that I've never been comfortable with in my adult life, how you've got two parties and nobody else can get in there. This last time, I think, was a critical to keep Biden out of the White House. Well, we failed at that. The conservative voters failed at that. And now we're faced with a situation where we're going to find out over the next 4 years just how bad luck can get.
Well, that's a great way to put that. How bad can bad luck get? Remains to be seen. There are some really fascinating dynamics in play. The filibuster is one of them. We discussed that over the last couple of days. We discussed it on Sunday. With a 50-50 split, are we at a point? Because, I could make the argument very easily that with a 50-50 split, the filibuster intact, which I have to give McConnell credit for that. I do. He did. That was a brilliant maneuver, essentially on legislation that's so close. Schumer's basically going to have to beg McConnell for help. We'll see, based on some of McConnell's recent comments in support of some of the things that Liz Cheney said, and maybe Mitt Romney and others. Who knows what's going to happen here? But Manchin, I could make the argument that Joe Manchin holds the future of our gun rights. I could point to some things that would be true. So a lot of dynamics in play, lots of stuff getting ready to happen. Is gun control, is it dead on arrival? Stephen Gutowski told us yesterday. We're getting ready to take a break, so we'll go there in just a second. When we come back with Dave Workman, we'll continue the conversation. I'll close out with this. As Stephen Gutowski from the Free Beacon said yesterday, it's certainly possible with the split at 50-50 and the filibuster intact right now that big bills like assault weapons bans, etc., may have a very difficult time seeing the light of day, at least in the Senate. And he made the case that probably even in the House as well, too. Who knows? We're going to wrap up this hour, believe it or not, fastest hour in radio with Dave Workman, veteran journalist, right after this. Don't go away.
right, we're getting close.
Roll to that.
All right, here you go.
30. The following segment of Armed American Radio is being brought to you by Defender Coffee. When you drink Defender Coffee, you're making a donation to a gun rights organization of your choice that protects and defends your freedoms. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show indeed. Defender Coffee is in my Kennesaw State University dad mug because my daughter's getting ready to go there in the fall, and we're really proud of her. And, well, I'm drinking iced coffee in a Kennesaw State University mug. Before we go back to Dave, I want to mention a couple things. Please make sure to support all of our sponsors. The MyPillow, man, you guys keep it up. Mike Lindell, cancel culture in full swing over there trying to kill his company, the area that he works at, where he creates jobs and peripheral businesses that support his, where people eat, pay taxes, and work, all the extra jobs that have been created because of his factory, and they're trying to shut him down, and you are answering the call. It's real simple. Stick it down their throats by using the AAR promo code, support your gun rights, and buy a product from Mike. His sales are climbing and skyrocketing in large measure because of you. Keep it up. The promo code is AAR, mypillow.com. And you know that this is all being presented to you today in the gunbroker.com studios on the Crossbreed Holsters microphone by X Insurance. Let me very briefly tell you something. You hear me say, get off the gimmicky membership plans, etc. One individual now fighting for her freedom in court, claiming self-defense, which the judges allowed, was dropped by one of those member plans, and here's what the member plan attorney had to say. The company did not negotiate or issue the policy of insurance. She's dropped. The insurance was no good. They didn't issue it. They just sold it to her. X Insurance, this will never happen to you because it is the company that issued the policy that will fight to the death with you for your freedom when it's at stake. xinsurance.com. Don't let this happen to you. That's why they're being sued. X Insurance has your back. Hardcore, I know. You know what? The truth is a harsh mistress. Dave Workman, welcome back, my friend. I start looking at some of this stuff during the break, Dave, and I'm looking at some of these headlines and where we can go to wrap this program up. And Angry Mark wants to come out of the box, brother, because there are so many of them out there now. So let me just try to do what I would do with you when I call you for advice. Just to say, hey, I need to ask you some questions. When I look at all of these headlines out there, and we closed the last segment with, is the Senate close enough with the filibuster intact? Do we really have anything to worry about? We both know how Alan responds to that. Yeah, we do. What's getting ready to come at us? What does Dave Workman expect? I mean, I'm going to guess. Maybe I'm wrong. You tell me if I'm wrong. But I think an attack on the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act might be first. What do you think? What are you feeling? Tell listeners what Dave Workman feels.
Well, I think Biden has already made it clear he wants to repeal the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Firearms Act because it protects the firearms industry from these awful junk lawsuits that were all the rage back in the late 1990s and early 2000s. That's first on the list. The idea being, of course, that if you can tie up the gun companies in endless litigation, you're going to bankrupt all of them. That's a way to destroy the Second Amendment because if you can't get arms to bear or to keep, there's no reason to have a right to keep and bear arms.
Right.
Then I think they're going to go after national registration. Perhaps Joe Biden made a big deal about licensing in his agenda that's been online for several months. They're going to try to cajole the state legislatures into requiring people to obtain a license before they can exercise their Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms. Now, I think that they better pay real close attention to a case, Murdoch v. Pennsylvania. That was a First Amendment case from decades ago, but I studied it when I was in journalism school.
Yeah, I've studied it too. It's a long time. Glad you mentioned that.
And the nuts and bolts of it are fairly simple. You can't force somebody to get a license to exercise a constitutionally protected right. That was the long and the short of it. Now, I'm sure some attorney's going to say, well, Workman, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, I tell you what, give it a try first before you start rubbing my face in it. Now, beyond that, I think there is going to be a definite effort to ban so-called assault weapons, or at least assault rifles. And depending on whose interpretation or definition of that could be, anything that's ever been produced as a semi-automatic rifle, including 22 caliber rifles. Everybody remembers the old Browning gallery rifle that we all shot at the fairs with 22 shorts, and the Marlin Model 60 and the Remington Nylon 66, and of course the Ruger 1022. Those are all considered to be assault rifles under a definition adopted by Washington State voters.
Right where Dave lives, he knows what he's talking about. He's living
this. Yeah, believe me, I know what I'm talking
about. He's living this. That's what they want for you.
And yeah, they want this for you. They want to tighten down and hopefully do away with, or at least make it so prohibitively expensive nobody will want to do it. Get a license to carry a handgun concealed, which is one of the reasons I'm all for the idea of constitutional carry. You shouldn't have to get a license to exercise a fundamental right. So I think looking ahead. We really, I think we'll see the big push this year, because next year, in 2022, Capitol Hill is going to be up for election again.
Right.
And whatever else a politician is somebody that believes in self-preservation. They're not going to do something that's going to have the people not voting for them, but be coming to their house with torches and tar.
Well, you make a great point, and we're going to talk about a lot of this, particularly in the latter part of this year coming up and early next year, which, by the way, is going to be on top of us very quickly. I can promise you that. But Dave makes a great point, and we can illustrate it with this. Here in this state where I sit, in the state of Georgia, you can thank me for giving you those two clowns later, okay? Jeez. But regardless, I lose my train of thought when I think about those idiots.
Come on, Mark, fess up. I know you voted for both of them, so you'd have something to talk about on the radio.
Man, oh man, here comes angry Mark boiling to the top. All right, but here's the deal. We can illustrate the point with Everytown for Gun Safety, and the politicians were not running on gun control here. They were running on health care. Everytown for Gun Safety was spending money on health care, knowing that if they could get Democrats elected, Democrats are the party of gun control. So they didn't run on it because of the election. They didn't want to turn off a lot of those voters in this very gun-friendly state. That's what Dave is referring to. So if they're going to move, they're going to move now. And I'm with him on that, because they're not going to do it when the House is up and they lost seats in the previous election in 2020. They want to try to maintain control of the House. Hey, Dave Workman, lots of stuff getting ready to happen over the course of the next few months. Thank you for your contribution to the show. We look forward to it every single week. You are a fan favorite. And I will see you tomorrow night at a meeting. I'm looking forward to that. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense in the gunbroker.com studios on this Crossbreed Holsters microphone. Every bit of it brought to you by X Insurance, a real insurance company that actually writes the policy for you, that can't run away from that with the excuse, well, we didn't write the policy. It's not our policy. Now, get real.
Funny.
X Insurance has you covered. That's why they present this show to you, and that's why they're taking the firearms community by storm. Find out why, xinsurance.com, and support Mike Lindell at MyPillow, please.
10.
Carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never leave your cave without your club. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you on the radio tomorrow.
You've just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by X Insurance. X Insurance on the Armed American Radio Network.
Another hour in the books.
Unbelievable. John Lane, that is pricey, dude. I know. It was $135. It was $135. Yeah, Susie, you did. You know. Craig, I know lots of people there. I don't think I'd be. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. It's, nothing personal, just business. Let's see. Yeah, come to HR 127, a Texan coming from a Texan. Is Sheila Jackson Lee really a Texan? I mean, Greg, you're in Texas. Is Sheila Jackson Lee really a Texan, dude?
No.
Okay, there's your answer to that one, Di.
Not no, but hell no.
Here's where we're going to have issues. Mark my word. They're going to try to move gun control using budget reconciliation. They're going to talk taxes. We talked about it yesterday. You watch. They're good at it. That's what they did with Obamacare.
That yearly tax.
They're going to talk about it in the form of a tax, and that's how they're going to try to squeak it through budget reconciliation with
And
the
you can
filibuster in
tax
place.
refund.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that. Please don't remind me. It's tax time. I start hating it around Christmas. I hate hating the holidays because of businesses. But whatever. All right, dude. You need me?
I'm good. If you're good, I'm good.
Rock and roll. Tomorrow is the build day. That's what I said on Sunday night.
Yep.
But okay, all right, no big deal.
Yeah.
Enjoy
we'll
it.
get past that little speed bump.
I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, man. See you.
Greg's the bomb, isn't he? He's great. Good stuff. Let's see what we got in here for questions. Anything fun in here? What do we have? Hey, there's Rick Huggins. Rick, what's up, brother? Let's see, 127. Yeah, Orlando, California gun laws coming to your town. I don't know. We're going to do everything we can to fight it. I'll let you know how that meeting, I'll let you know Wednesday's meeting on Thursday, how that turns out, what we can talk about anyway. Free Angry Mark. I tell you, man. Die, lead slingers, baby. There you go. Just found out today that one of my local distributors is adding it. There you go. Thank goodness. Saves me a little drive. Ron, Angry Mark started coming out a little bit today. And when that happens, I forget everything else that I'm talking about when Angry Mark takes over. I think you'll see him this weekend, though. And Brian Dew, you are correct. This is breaking news when we were on today. Jeff Bezos is stepping down as the CEO. Hey, I'm all for everybody making as much money as they can make, man. I'm a capitalist. God bless him for creating what he created. But when you have that kind of money, I don't understand at that point in your life and career why you wouldn't walk away and enjoy your life and turn it over to somebody else. This is what I can never understand about Wayne LaPierre. As far as I'm concerned, he's fleeced enough money from NRA. Unlike Bezos, who actually earned his money. That was a smack, wasn't it? That'll bring out Angry Mark. Walk away. If you're sincere in your efforts and what you've done and you're happy with what you've done, just go away and let somebody else take over the organization. That's called integrity and character and honesty. So it leaves legitimate questions as to why you're not doing that. Well, I think the investigations show us why you're not doing that, because you're very concerned about the outcome. But hey, Bezos makes all that money and then walks away and turns it over to somebody else and becomes an emeritus somewhere. Good for him. Good for him. Dubes. You sent Bo an email a few hours ago. Good. Let me know it. You've got my email address, Mark. Use it. Don't be a stranger. Okay? They're very busy over there. I can promise you that now. But take your time. Talk with them. They will build a program specifically for your needs. And yeah, thanks, John Roberts. Martin Gregg has been a great addition to the show and the AAR family. Yes, he has. It was long overdue. It was needed. Rick, it will, brother. Yes, he does own the Washington Post. And Annette, yes, Soros does need to go away. Unfortunately, these people don't. You are not being a pest, bro. Send me an email if you need assistance. All right, guys, I am out. Lots of work to do today. Got to get ready for tomorrow's build like we did Sunday for Monday's build. That didn't happen. But when I can post the pictures, you will see them in the premium side. Update on the website, cranking right along. Lots of activity. We'll launch it when it's ready, but it's going to be a news and information site as well. So we want to make sure we launch it the proper way. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll get the podcast up for you here shortly. Don't be strangers. We'll see you tomorrow.